you know, it's going to be hard for Tom to support anything unless it gets better, and I think that the senator knows that, and other folks know that. So, you know, we've asked for a number of changes to the bill,
and if it's not, it doesn't get any better, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is that Tom would really like to regulate the industry. He doesn't want to shut down the industry, and some of the provisions, frankly, are unworkable.
Is there any way we can go back to what I originally suggested and split the bill, have cultivation as a separate entity that you can pull apart and take a look at it another day and be able to get just the dispensary side in? Even the dispensary side and the doctor's side is what you have now rewritten would be passable compared, it's a cultivation side. And remember those, no other word.
I have a hard time seeing the legislature taking multiple votes on marijuana bills. I mean, it's
they
just...
do every year.
Not on regulation. And so, you know, also there needs to be a comprehensive structure. And if you're only regulating part of the industry, it's not a comprehensive set of regulations.
In any other agriculture, it's not, the same industry is not, your supermarkets are not under the Department of Agriculture. Why is this?
Yeah, but those are already regulated. This is unregulated.
They weren't originally.
So,
yeah, everything had a time when it wasn't being regulated, and we're being treated like we're a freak compared to everything else in the past, which is no more natural than what we've got going on.
And really, I mean, it should be separated. This is a huge agricultural industry for the state of California, which deserves its own set of regulations under that. Same as any other farming industry. And anything to do with industrial or with our industry as far as our dispensaries isn't the same, and our issues are not the same.
Not to mention, for us, it's a medication, so you don't charge a factory or a manufacturer.
Video recording there?
No,
I'm not. I was unaware. Okay.
I mean, we don't. No video.
I just
get the information.
Right. Well, no, it's fine. I thought.
I apologize.
No worries.
You don't sit there and take a pharmaceutical company and hold the Walgreens responsible for the. You don't tie them together. They are two completely different entities. As a medication does, why can't I go to my pharmacy, my dispensary, for my medication without worrying about whether it was made by Klein, whatever, Lucas Klein or the other, whichever says it makes
and on the other side,
I'm worried about my
pharmacy. Have the choice to go direct and not have to worry about how many people other than myself are going direct to the source rather than have to go to a dispensary.
Best medicine is usually from the small little farmers.
Got it.
And those are the folks that tend to be more compassionate than the sort of larger, larger sort of Kmart size, which is also needed. But I guess one of my concerns will always be, and I've been talking about it for 10 years, now.
Yeah, we've talked for a long time.
I know. We've got to know each other over a decade. You're talking about cannabis.
There's Tom.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Tom. Sneak away. We're talking about pot.
Actually, one question I do actually have about anybody who actually has cases in jail for just smoking a little joint, who end up with a criminal record is having problems getting a job because of the mark right there. Are you guys going to be trying to work on that, trying to expunge and get people out of jail from just a small little seed or just cannabis?
I'm in Sacramento.
We have always supported expungements. I don't think that will be part of this bill. I think to the extent that there is language in there that disqualifies a number of people who have past criminal convictions from getting a license, that is something that we are talking with the Senator's office about, and we have asked for changes in that area. But decriminalization or expungements for prior convictions, I don't see being part of it.
I have a question just about, setting a minimum standard of care for low-income people and people that can't make a gainful income. We have examples of Washington, D.C. and Berkeley, and I just feel like how can we, it's one thing to look at the recreational side, and I'm fine with the taxes and the prices on that side for folks that can make a gainful income, but for us,
This bill this bill doesn't talk about recreation. This is about regulating the medical industry.
But the patient's left out of the regulation then, because a lot of the patients can't make a gainful income. We can't already afford the pricing. And if we have another layer of permitting, what happens every time there's a layer of permitting is the dispensaries say, yes, the medicine went up because we have to pay for our permit. And so it kind of pushes the patient and marginalizes the authentic patient from being able to access their medicine. And we'd really love to see Tom address some of the concerns of low-income patients, especially because everybody here is his constituent, with the exception of Linda.
Right.
We represent a lot of people who couldn't come here. A lot of people that I know.
We're on the same page.
Same page.
No, and I don't disagree. And, we were able to include a scale of fees in there, I'm not sure, exactly what specific language would accomplish that. I agree that setting a high fee is prohibitive to a number of organizations and good organizations, and we did fight, we did ask for the language to change that would establish a scale of fees where it says it's up to $8,000. So, the $8,000 is not set in stone. Scales of fees are generally not set in statute. I set a scale of fees for non-Medi-Cal eligible opiate addicts a number of years ago to gain access to narcotic replacement therapy. That's generally not done in statute. That's generally done through the regulatory process at the agency once they have direction from the legislature. So that is definitely...
That brings me to, we have concerns about the Bureau, we have concerns about just sort of almost sequestered little group of writing out, finalizing things like the scale and et
How about
cetera.
the transportation, Sean? If you went to drive your medicine out to the second floor, you have to have a permit to drive, you have to have 2 employees in the car, it has to be filmed before you went, you have to have a report of where you put your product, where you're going to be dropping it off at, and you have to pay for an audit at the end of the year after you pay for the permit to say, this is what I did.
Oh, it'll definitely kill compassion. I mean, there's no way that the coordinator will be able to come up with any of those funds.
Let me just one issue at a time. So, the concerns with the Bureau are not lost on us. We fully understand our concerns. The Bureaus and rulemaking processes, though, are subject to other laws, such as the Brown Act and the Administrative Procedures Act. They cannot do it in a closed-door session. There are laws that govern the rulemaking process or the regulatory development.
That said that they can skip over that through some sort of loophole in the Constitution. They put that one sentence in there that just scared me with.
No, any regulation that's developed by any state agency is not exempt from that. It is subject to the regulatory process, administrative law, Administrative Procedures Act, and the Brown Act. They are all open. There has to be public notice. I mean, these are all standard government processes. So to the extent that, it is concerning that that rules are going to be developed subsequently by a state regulatory agency. Those rules and that process is also governed by an entire other set of laws that require open access.
So, for example, just like as it would happen on the ground, if they were going to create a scale or a way to govern over, speaking from self-interest, people that do compassionate care, people that aren't, charging a fee to people who can't be charged a fee. So if they were going to set rules about that or try to establish a way to deal with that, it would be publicly noticed and we could come and give input.
Yes, that is all public. The rulemaking process is
And what about the, right now it's a right to be able to collectively cultivate, and change the wording to a privilege, which doesn't seem to catch quite a bit. There's a big difference in the law between the right and between the privilege.
We didn't draft that. I mean,
But you could
clearly.
stop it. You could, oh, of course you didn't. But you could help
Somebody did.
clarify it so that it's not in there and they try to
Correct
pass
that
it.
word.
That you can do.
Right. That's what we've been doing.
It's still there.
Well, I mean, it's not, Tom is not the author of the bill. I mean, with all due respect, you know, the bill that we were pushing died on the floor. And so, you know, to the extent that, you know, Assemblymember Amiano is the chair of a policy committee, we can, you know, talk about these issues and negotiate them. But, you know, ultimately, Tom is not the author of the bill. Now, what the author of the bill chooses to do with the language based on feedback that he and his office are receiving from the community is their prerogative. Certainly we have asked for changes, certainly we have talked to them, and we have noted all the concerns to them. But, you know, ultimately it is Senator Correa's bill. Now, whether or not Tom supports it at the end of the day, that's also a different question. And so we have asked for a number of changes to the bill and a number of clarifications, and I understand that the senator is still looking at those changes and trying to figure out where that sweet spot in the middle is, you know, without losing everybody or keeping everybody, you know, which is just one of those situations with this kind of bill. Yeah, I mean, so in a lot of sense, we're kind of waiting and seeing. To the extent that we can rewrite portions or clarify, we can only ask the senators to do that. You know.
So is it available what clarifications you've asked for? And we're supposed to go up to Korea's office around 2 to see if Jono's there. And I have had nice conversations with Jono. He's a very sweet man, you know, and he's easy to talk to, and he's open to hearing my concerns. So I'm wondering, what would you advise us to do when we get up there to kind of help things go in the right direction, or what, you know, because we all haven't gotten a chance to read the new bill, because it just got released today, from my understanding, and when that's the first person that I've met that has a copy of it, other than Mom from Gato's office, and he was really like, it's just a moving target, and, you know, right now in our office, they're rewriting everything, and we don't, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Right, right. And, you know, again, I mean, it is Senator Correa's office that's redrafting the language, you know.
Okay.
Once that bill left our committee, you know, we tried to rewrite and put a workable structure, you know, into the bill in our committee. And we did include those amendments. Now, you know, they were included, and it was public in the hearing that there were still outstanding issues, there were still clarifications that needed to take place. You know, we tried to put in as much language to make the bill function as we could in committee. We have let the senator know about the outstanding issues. I know that a lot of organizations have taken positions and have made their concerns known to the senator, and, you know, whether, you know, the senator includes those in the latest draft. I mean, frankly, we're also kind of waiting to hear from them. I don't know if the senator has made any final decisions on all of these issues.
So should one of our
I know that they're still discussing it. I'm sure that they're meeting on it right now. You know, the timeline is very short. Frankly, the time is working against us.
Is it next week, the hearing?
Yeah, the hearing is scheduled for next week. And, you know, our concern is that...
what about the suspense thing that you heard about?
The suspense file will be dispensed with next week. So it'll either be held in appropriations or will be let out of appropriations next week.
And because of all the changes on it, doesn't it get held or goes into something else because there's been 36 pages added to it, and the other side hasn't had a chance to look at it with all the adjustments?
You know, I mean, there have been significant changes to the language.
Substantive change?
Yeah, I mean, from the version of the bill that left the Senate to the version of the bill that went into print today, yes, there are significant changes. Whether or not the policy committees in the Senate choose to look at the language again, I mean, that is up to the chairs of those committees in the Senate. To the extent that, and again, the Tom chairs public safety, the bill did come through our committee. We were able to request and get a number of changes in there. Again, with the asterisk that it still needed work and there still needed to be issues that needed to be worked out. And frankly, there were agreements that were made in our committee, which was very public, and it's still available online for all to watch, that haven't exactly made its way into the bill either. And so those are additional changes that we've asked for, and again, I think that the senator certainly has good intentions in mind. I know that his sponsors have slightly different views about the industry and how it should be regulated, and I think he's trying to balance kind of all sides of the equation, and God bless him for it.
Right, I mean, you guys
we've worked on this issue also, and and it is difficult to balance all of those policies, and so I know that he's continuing to work on it, and again, I think that he has heard from a lot of people and has a lot of input on the bill, and whether he makes those changes and when he makes those changes is going to be very important.
I have a general perception question. I've heard the reference to industry. Okay, is it possible for Tom, or does Tom already hold a viewpoint that there is an entire culture that's been going on for 12,000 years that has nothing to do with commerce